Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. I've been asked to come on board and talk about programmatic, but truth be known, I'm not an expert in programmatic. I've only been working in the area for about 18 months, and before that, I was at a company called Facilitate, where I wrote their ad server and I wrote a product called Symphony. Some of you might have used that. Generally speaking, when I say the word symphony, there's like a general groan. And so I'm really sorry I wrote that, but that's my background. So, but a year and a half ago, I started working in programmatic. So to understand a bit more about programmatic, and I knew nothing about it, I went and asked these 6 gentlemen. So the 6 people that you see on the screen are the CEOs of some of the largest programmatic companies globally. Starting up the top, we've got Brian Lesser, who's our CEO at Xaxis. I work for Xaxis. We've got Brian O'Kelly to the right, the CEO of AppNexus. This guy's 37 years old and he's got a $1.2 billion company. So, wow, that's a nice dot point on the CV, isn't it? I caught up with Scott Knoll from Integral Ad Science last week in New York. Tremendously fantastic guy. Brand safety, you're going to hear it again and again and again and again, brand safety. Scott Ferber here, CEO of Videology. I caught up with him last Thursday in New Orleans. And this guy is powered by caffeine. I had breakfast with him and he had 2 short blacks, a long black, and then he started drinking coffee. So I caught up with Jan, the founder of Comscore, who looks remarkably like Dustin Hoffman. And I was like, I really wanted him to do a Rain Man impersonation for me, but it was a bit inappropriate. And I caught up with Jeff Green, the CEO of the Trade Desk. So what you're about to hear from me is I'm going to vocalise and try and harmonise a group of people who I do feel are experts in this particular area. I've got an impression and I want to sell it. Who wants to go and buy my impression? Okay. The next one on that is the demand side platform, right? Is the I want to go and buy an impression. Which one do I want to go and buy? So as you can see, they're like yin and yang, right? Working together, hand in hand, right? In order to try and evaluate those, we've got lovely people here like Joe from Crux, who have a DMP, who figure out the value of each impression. Is this a male in Sydney who likes sports? That is my demographic. Or is it a female in Cabramatta who likes knitting? That may not be my demographic. And I need to figure it out. And that's what the idea of a DMP is. And lastly, an encapsulating term, real-time bidding, which is basically the piping that holds everything together. Yeah? We're all good with that? We're all good? All right, let's move on. Let's look at a couple of myths on myth busting. We've got a lot to get through in the next 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and whiz through some of these. The first myth I continuously hear, and that might be a bit small, so I'll read it out, which is programmatic. That's cheap and nasty. Hear it all the time. Not necessarily. It's a bit of a myth. We get it all the time with things like, think about Virgin Atlantic. Think about Sir Richard Branson. He gets that all the time from his airline. It's a cheap and nasty airline. But being inexpensive is not the same thing as being cheap. The next one we get is that programmatic is only for DR campaigns. It only drives clicks and acquisitions. Not true at all. We have a lot of our campaigns which are driven towards audiences. We need to find programmatically people who are in Sydney who are 18 to 24 who like sports. Next one we get is that programmatic is not brand safe. I'm going to be talking more about brand safety later on, so I'm just going to say that's a myth. And we work with the best in breed in Integral Ad Science and Wide Ops and Double Verify to ensure that we are brand safe. I'll be talking more about that in a minute. We get that we can't get access to premium inventory. It's only exchange inventory. And hopefully the people here from Yahoo and News and Fairfax and MCN and all the terrestrial broadcasters will verify that programmatically we buy their inventory all the time. And lastly, low viewability. So harping on about Gay's point about viewability standards. Programmatically we can target just viewable impressions. So now that we've got that out of the road, that's all the boring stuff, let's look at what is an impression, the day in the life of an impression. Now, you guys are quite technical of nature, so I'm going to try and walk you through this. And normally I have like a little pointer, so without the pointer, I'm just going to sort of pull out a couple of areas on the screen. So you might have seen this diagram before, but I really do think that it is the encapsulation of this whole idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And let's look it through. What happens is an impression will go through to a publisher's website, let's say that it's Yahoo, and then it goes through to the ad server, which might be DFP. Fine. That's stage one, where the impression is announced. It then goes through to the SSP, which might be Rubicon or Pubmatic or AdX or any one of these companies. And they say, right, who wants to buy me? I'm an impression. I'm out there for sale. And it goes through the auction, and this is down that step 3 now, whereby everybody evaluates it. One DMP will say, hey, this is a male in Sydney who likes sports, and the other DMP will say, no, it's a female in Cabramatta who likes knitting. And everybody will bid on the impression differently. And it's a second price auction, so you only pay 1 cent more than the first price. Right? So if Alex bids $1 and I bid $2, I pay $1.01. In the same way that you do with Google, with CPC. Then once we've won it with the DSP, and the DSPs are the demand side, the ones that want to buy the impressions, and they're people like AppNexus and MediaMath and Turn and things like that, the trade desk. Then we move over to us, which we're the trading desk, that's Xaxis and Cadreon and Amnet and Viviki. And then we move over to the ad server, so DFA and Atlas. And then finally, to the far left, to the advertiser's website. All of that obviously has to happen within 100 milliseconds. In fact, most cases it happens within 40 milliseconds. And generally speaking, we're doing 27,000 of these every second. In general, there's 19 billion of these ad opportunities which happen every month in Australia. So let's move on and let's understand why you should be excited. Why should ad ops people be excited about programmatic? We've got some of the boring stuff. Let's have a look at the market conditions here. And if we look at market conditions here, market conditions in Australia for total advertiser spend across all media, including digital, display, TV, radio, network, is largely flat. And you can see that I've tried to highlight Australia there, not growing terribly fast. In fact, possibly slightly shrinking over the next few years in total spend. But the digital area, where you guys rock and roll, you guys can see that it's growing in digital spend by about 9%. So that means there's a shift from TV and radio and press mostly into the digital spend. But which area of digital is it working well with? Well, then it's the programmatic area, where we can see the current spend in Australia is about 150 million. And we're going to see it grow up to 200 and something million next year. We're basically seeing a year-on-year growth of about 30 to 40%. So it's the area inside digital which is growing the fastest. That's why you should be excited, because it's all about money. All right, well, I'm from the agency side. I'm allowed to say things like that. All right, inside programmatic, where is it growing? So let's look under the hood for programmatic, and what we can see is that the future depends on what we're doing today. And over the last 9 months, we've been working to try and get programmatic more into the digital spend for TV. So try and move TV dollars from the red, green, the blue, from mobile phone, tablet, and desktop into TV spend. So early next year, you will see programmatic TV dollars. But when I looked at the teams today, they don't have to worry about those types of things. The things that they had to worry about 14 years ago were campaign creation, uploading pixels and creative, and running reports. And that was it. That was from soup to nuts what they did. Nothing more, nothing less. Every single day. Day in, day out. But over the last few years, right, we've automated a lot of this stuff. So my team now doesn't manually create campaigns. They've written APIs, application program interfaces, to automatically create campaigns, right? So for loading up pixels, they don't manually try and put pixels on publishers' websites anymore, advertisers' websites anymore. They put pixels into tag management solutions, whether it be Ignited or whether it be Signal or whether it be Bright Tag, whatever. And for reports, everything is encapsulated in dashboards. So all of a sudden, their workload has dramatically reduced. So what do? They look into verification. They make sure the pixels for Nielsen and OCR and VCE and things like that are inserted, viewability, are inserted into the creative. They look at optimization. They spend their day thinking about the campaign. I've got a campaign for a Gillette razor blade. How am I going to optimize? Where am I going to find my audience? They spend their time here thinking rather than running around like a mad chook, right? What they also spend the time in is budgets. So being down at the pub and having a beer and saying to your mate, do you know what? My boss has entrusted me with $2 million worth of budget to play with, right? That's what optimization is today. It's not sitting in the corner and saying, yeah, you go take these flash files and the GIF backups, trying to associate them correctly and upload them online. And lastly, they're out there talking to clients. They're walking past their desks and they're hacking into SQL code. They're writing left joins and right joins, and they're putting data sources together, and they're actually storing amalgamated information. They're also then automating the process. They're saying, man, I'm not going to do this. I've got 200 campaigns. I'm not going to do this manually. So they're writing code in Python and R and Perl to automatically download that information every day. So at 9 o'clock when they get in, they can look at their visualization. And I think somebody mentioned, running scripts in Tableau or in Romby or whatever it is to visualize that data. These are the tools that are on the desks of the AdOps people today. All right. So what are they talking about? What are the technologies? So as I was walking around Central Park a couple of weeks ago, I thought, well, do you know what? Imagine if these are all the guys. This is the new Lumascape for me. Have you all seen that Lumascape diagram? I hate the Lumascape diagram now. It's just so noisy. It's like it just confuses me. So to me, it was like a dozen years ago. This is what it was like. It was, I traffic in DFA. Oh, I traffic in Atlas. Oh, nice to meet you. And that was about it. Then 2007, out came Media Math, first to market. Call out to Stuart Bartram. Well done. But in that, you had all the DSPs came out to market. And then over the last couple of years, we're seeing people logging into to Nielsen and OCR and VCE. And if I had time, I would have put little bubbles above everybody's head because my team have logons to 20 or 30 different applications that they use all day, every day. So that's my version of what AdOps is like. It's not like it was a dozen years ago anymore. All right. So just checking how I'm going for time. Okay, so I'm doing all right. Now, this is the part of my presentation which I call, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So I've got an 11-year-old son, Julius, who comes into my office and does brand safety for us. He looks for brand safety breaches in the Programmatic web space. He does very well. And he asked me one day, what do you do, Dad? So I tried to explain it, and God, it was pretty hard. So I went away, and I came back, and I said, you know what, Julius? Programmatic is like an airport. So you're going to follow me through this, and I'm going to give you an analogy, and hopefully it's going to sit. Programmatic is like an airport. I was at the airport the other day, and I was looking around. I'm thinking, well, do you know what? In the airport, you've obviously got aeroplanes, and they're a bit like publishers. They're a bit like, well, do you know what? A publisher brings impressions to the programmatic sphere, and a plane brings people to an airport. Great. So out of the planes come, the passengers, and out of the publishers come the impressions. And I'm thinking, right, okay, this analogy is happening, so far. Well, what do the people have at the airport? They've got wallets. It's supposed to be a wallet, a bit blurry. They've got wallets. And wallets represent in the programmatic space the personally identifiable information, PII, which you hear about all the time. With PII, we can't touch you. Big no-go. Can't touch your name, your email address, your phone number, your anything to do about you personally. But what we can do is we can rummage through your baggage. And that's your cookie, right? So if you imagine if you take your bags in the airport and you threw all your clothes over a table, someone would be able to figure out fairly quickly whether you're a male or female, whether you have frilly knickers or if you've got Y fronts. And that's exactly what we do programmatically. We identify you as a group of people who are in male in Sydney who like sports, or females in Cabramatta who like knitting, whatever it is. On the other side of an airport, you've also got taxis. And a taxi at an airport is designed to take a user along a journey from one point to another. And that's what campaigns do. They take users along a journey from one point to another. It's exactly the same thing. So what does that make us? We are the traffic cop in between, saying, okay, impression, come forwards. Yeah, you hop in that campaign over there. I'm going to show you an ad down there. And that was my understanding of the programmatic sphere. And my 11-year-old son, Julius, he goes, Dad, I get it. So now you can think, do you get it? Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Give yourself a pat on the back if you get it, right? You can come and punch me afterwards if you don't. All right. The other analogy I want to give you is how we start trading, how we traded media a dozen years ago, and believe me, I know because I wrote Symphony, and versus how we trade today versus how we will trade in the future. Well, that sounds really like sci-fi when I get really close to the mic like that. Sorry. So a dozen years ago when I wrote Symphony, it was things like insertion orders. So think of it as a bouncer at a nightclub. All right, I'm a bouncer at a nightclub and I've got all these impressions who want to get into the nightclub. All right, okay. With an insertion order, that's the way it is. But think about it. Not all impressions you really want to have in the nightclub. Not all people you want to have in the nightclub. Remember, the average click-through rate in Australia at the moment is 0.06. That means only 1 in 19,000 people are actually clicking or interacting on an ad. All right. So at an old insertion order, when you write it, you open the gate of the nightclub, and basically everybody gets in, and that's it. All right. With programmatic, it's the same sort of concept. We might want to deal with REA and say, do you know what? We want to programmatic, which we do, programmatically buy inventory from REA. And as we do that, we say, do you know what? I want to open the door of the nightclub, but some of those impressions do not fit the demographic to which we are buying, so we do not let them in. Moving forwards, though, it'd be more like us integrating our DMP with their DMP and jumping on the phone and saying, hey, JJ, do you have any males in Sydney who like sports? He says, yes, I do. I'm going to send them straight over to show you your campaign. And that is how I think programmatic is going to move forward over the next few years. Okay. I've got two more sections that I'm going to wrap up. Data, inventory, and safety I want to talk about, and then one final slide. Okay. So when it comes to data, and I think that people were talking about it before, I think JJ was talking about it before as well, is that data is important. And this is the way I think of data. So with data, we've got three phases of data at the moment. We mine data, we refine data, and then we apply data. Currently, we're mining data. So with our company, we're mining about 100 million data points every single week. On the next slide, I'll show you how we do that. Then we refine it. We refine that data into audience profiles. We currently have 9.5 million profiles currently built, and then we apply it. Then we have to apply those profiles to campaigns, because each campaign will have a different profile, and that's the optimization. That'll make sense, right? I don't think I'm saying anything which is, voodoo here. But with this type of thing, that's what AdOps is doing now. And I don't want to call it AdOps. In fact, I want to go out there, if anyone's tweeting, AdOps is dead. What you called AdOps 14 years ago is dead. That doesn't exist anymore. These are people who are smart people who are buying and trading audiences online. Let's look at how we collect that data. The way we collect is pretty simple, is that we contextually, when we're mining, we're reading the pages the ads are on. And all we're doing is reading the text. So if you're reading stories about sports or stories about the block or whatever it is, that's all it is just reading those pages. Then when we refine the data, and we have to pull the data all together into these profiles. And we've got 4 data scientists with double PhDs in mathematics in Germany running a team of 60 data scientists who actually refine this data. And it's just ridiculous just how much time they put into the mathematics behind this. But they refine that data, and then we apply it. We connect that data to the DSP worlds. And this is where the AdOps people, what you think, we call them optimizers. This is what the optimizers do, is they figure out which data profiles for which campaigns. And that's all them doing it, right? And then they go and find the right audiences. All right. I want to move very quickly on to brand safety because I'm going to get the hurry up very soon. November last year, Black Thursday, that's the day we call it. Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November, what happened was that one of our ads, and that's an Amex ad for one of our clients, was shown on an illegal download website. All right. You may or may not know this, but Australia has the highest propensity for illegal downloads globally. Yeah, a couple of people nodding, they know that. All right. It's because we're all criminals, we always know that as well. So what we did is we came together with the IAB, and we all, us and Cadrion and Viveki and everybody, we all checked our egos at the door, and we sat around a round table and we talked about what we could try and do with this particular conundrum. And we found that if we could try and come together and form a brand safety council, define the size of the problem and how to try and move forwards, it would help the whole industry as a total. And on this slide, we try to explain how we did this. So using our DSP, which we call AppNexus, we ran across what we called the premium networks. And premium to us was just networks that had terrestrial broadcast capabilities, so Yahoo and Fairfax and Nine and things like that. And we found that by default, they were 98% brand safe. And you might think, well, why weren't they 100%? What was that other 2%? And it was user-generated content about stories. So things like the Gummy story that was out of Thailand. I was actually in Thailand when that all broke. People were logging online and they were writing a lot of hate stories, responses with their user-generated content. So they would see the story written by Fairfax, and then they would go in there and write hate about that. And our clients think that that's not brand safe, which I completely agree with. And so what we did is that we used tools like Integral, and this is the AdOps team once again doing this, and they used tools like Integral to actually ensure that we could get to be completely brand safe and actually block those impressions. So you still buy the impressions, but it pixelates or covers the impression at runtime with a clouded image so that the brand is safe. All right. going to summarise and wrap on this last particular slide, even before you showed me the 1 minute to go slide. Thank you very much, Mel. I love TED Talks. I just want to see a show of hands. Who actually does like TED Talks? Yeah, everybody likes TED Talks. So it's okay. One great TED Talk said to me one thing which it stuck with me, which is at an event like this today, all of you, you're only going to walk away with a maximum of 7 things to remember, all right? Whether you want to remember more or not, 7 things, all right? Justin's going, no, I got like notes, I'm going, well done, Justin, all right, that's good. But I want you to remember this particular slide if you can, because this is at the heart of AdOps for Programmatic. Okay, so at this particular thing, what we do on the left-hand side is we have to combine 3 assets: premium inventory, premium data, and premium safety, right? On the right-hand side, this is what we try to aim for, which is the balance between safety, performance, and price. We aim too much for price, it might degrade safety. We aim too much for performance, and it might cost too much. So the last slide and last animation is this. What we have to aim for is on the Venn diagram on the left is the union or the intersection between those particular points and the balance on the right to try and that's in a nutshell what AdOps do every single day, or what I now call optimizers do every single day inside Programmatic. And here endeth the speech.